Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Weigh-In. The title of today's episode is Fear is God.
Holy cow.
Are you ready?
I'm strapping in. I can't wait.
It got heavy in the room. So basically today in this episode, we're going to talk about how much fear impacts the lives of everyone. So I got pretty much 4 questions, and then, we'll just go from there. So my first question is, how much of normal citizens' lives are ruled by fear? So you have the benzodiazepines, which is your Xanax, your diazepam, your Valium, which all treat anxiety. You have people that have phobias. You have people that have mental health and self-care work that they need. You have alcohol. You have drugs. You have psychologists. You have psychiatrists. You have all these things that are in place to kind of help people get a hold on fear where they cannot normally by themselves maintain, a life with so much fear impacting them.
Well, it's absolutely true. And actually, I've always had a bit of a theory on it, and I guess I'll do a little research on it since we talk about research a lot along the way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Americans, a lot of humans in general, because of the amount of drugs and things that are part of like regular diets and regimens that people are taking, I think we've mentally rewired the human psyche in many, many ways. There's a lot of people who don't use a lot of these drugs, but there's way too many that do.
Me.
But I think it has a lot to do with it, man. We're not seeing the same kind of response out of humans. We're seeing things that are augmented by a lot of the drugs that people are taking.
So here's the thing. 80s baby, growing up young, obviously drugs, aspirin was the only drug that I knew of. And then, going into the 90s where I'm now a teenager, there wasn't really like a lot of drugs that like there are now.
Oh, it's out of control.
Or a lot of medications. Like it's a normal thing. And
it's like a fast food restaurant.
Yeah. So this is one thing that I always talk about, that I have very low anxiety to just know, like I don't have any anxiety. And like, I just always assumed that since I didn't have anxiety, that nobody else did. Now, I did have a lot of anxiety growing up. Like I did have,
when you're young, you do when you're young because you're learning life, actually.
And there were things that like I did that I kind of techniques that I used to like bridge that gap from fear and kind of get over my personal fears, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later in this episode. But I just assumed that everybody kind of found some path where they didn't have anxiety. I didn't know that it was such a big epidemic till it was just pointed out to me by so many people so many times that a lot of America is just afraid. There's a lot of fear, and not just America, around the world. I didn't know fear was so like cumbersome for people in everyday life.
Well, I think it's been around forever, but I think that they've prescribed so many of these things that we're supposed to take to make us better that people have had anxiety since the beginning of time.
Yes,
and you don't notice it when you're younger, but it's there.
But they weren't taking these drugs because we didn't have them. Well, so there was ways to get past.
You can go out of it naturally. I mean, you can't obviously cure everything, but no. You need to do things.
And some people are on a different spectrum where they actually need some of these drugs.
Yes.
But how much do you think that people are just? I'm a little scared and I don't want to do this. So now, can you give me something, Doc?
It's a cop-out is what it is. Look, I grew up as a real extremely hyper boy when I was young. I got myself into a lot of trouble. I obviously had some issues, but, I learned to cope with it and I learned to work with it. And what I did was I did the natural way of prescribing. I kept busy. I did a lot of creative things and I kept my mind working. I didn't let the disease come in.
So there wasn't rumination. You didn't. There wasn't that neuroticism.
That's correct.
Where you just always thought about the fear, and you're just like, I don't want to do this, and this is coming in, and it's crazy. So you found ways to get your mind off of the fear and project it into something else.
And that's the natural way to fixing things.
I totally agree with that.
But a lot of people, they just cop out and they just want to take some more pills and some more pills, and you know where it leads. It's a dangerous road.
Absolutely. And there's obviously some people that there's an index of people that need to take these pills, but a lot of people, like my friend is saying, are copping out, just saying, Doc, give me some. Let me pop some shit and go. Give me some Prozac. Let me feel good. Everybody doesn't need that. Some people have to, like all of us, if we can, have to face reality.
Yeah. Reality's a bitch. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy, but you can't actually cop out and just fall back on this kind of crap.
No, absolutely.
Unless you have a problem.
So the next thing I want to talk about is fear, in all its forms, deeply connected to death. On every level. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, you bring some pretty heavy stuff out for me, and I love it, man. And that's for the audience also. He's not writing this shit for me. Obviously, I shouldn't say that, but geez, I don't know. You want me to kind of kick this off? No. I mean, I was talking to a friend Dwayne. He's one of our employees that works here, and he's an intelligent guy, and he comes up with some real neat things. And he's been having a couple issues with his stress a little bit too. And he's telling me that he had seen a lot of stuff about like how to get to understand the world better, like yoga related kind of stuff. Yeah, and some of the other things that are part of that. Where when you see a sunset,
mindfulness, meditation.
Yeah, when you see a sunrise or you see a sunset or whatever it might be, look deeper into what you see.
Connect with nature.
Yeah, and he's actually been talking pretty deep about that the last couple times we chatted. Because
is it helping him cope with his stress?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And he actually believes that he's smart enough to know what it is because he's had some issues of his own he's been coping with.
That's dope.
So, again, it's all out there.
Yes.
The grand creator of this universe and this lovely, this great planet that we live on.
He designed our reality to have everything.
Everything's here. Yes. It's all here. It's either if it's medicinal in plants, or if it's the Mother Nature itself. Everything is. People don't even get a chance to go out and just inhale a beautiful spring morning in the woods, as opposed to just living in the city. It's all there. There's a lot of natural stuff in Mother Nature that actually is what makes you feel good. It sets your head in the right way.
Yeah, because it's about life.
And it's not about the fear of death. It should not be about the fear of death. You can cope with that.
See, we are intimately connected to death because we are drowning in life, and that's another topic for another day. Which would definitely bring up, but. Life, and we're immersed in life, whether we're sleeping, whether we're conscious, whether we're unconscious, as long as we are physical organisms with life in us, consciousness, we are absorbed in life. When you're listening to this, when you're hearing me talk, when you're watching me, when I'm looking at him, we're absorbed in life. The other half of that binary coin is death.
But you can absorb it a little better if you actually take some steps prior to it. I mean, death doesn't have to be a big fearful thing, even though we know people are very connected to the fear.
No, absolutely. And I think that people are connected to the fear just in the sense that we don't understand death because no one's going all the way into death for an extended amount of time and come back. So, I think it comes back to that fear of the unknown. There's a natural fear of human beings of the unknown. We don't know what death is. And we believe life is so great, life is so joyful, life is so bountiful, life is so, we want to absorb and engage in everything and smell the roses and look at life and, feel the wind on our back and the sun on our face.
So good,
the opposite of that can't be good, but we don't know. It could be, it could be a higher plane of existence that we're designed for and we don't even understand. But when we get there, we'll automatically integrate. But I think that unknown is always connected to everything, whether it's going to, talk to a girl or you got a little anxiety about going into a party with people that you don't know. I think it's all connected to death, which is in lockstep with the unknown. So, maybe not so much the unknown, but more or less, maybe not so much death, but more or less the unknown we're connected to. That's just my thoughts on it.
No, I see exactly where you're coming from. What you can also correlate to this is there are a lot of people, we've all bumped into people like this, run into people before, maybe family members. Mm-hmm. A lot of people eventually learn how to accept death and they gracefully pass away.
Yes.
And they realize they've contributed to their time on the planet.
That should be some kind of curriculum in school.
It really should
something
be.
That, we're all taught, something that's enculturated with us.
But I think a lot of those writings are actually out there, and a lot of people don't experiment with it.
Yes.
They don't take the chance. Death does not have to be such a sad thing, even though it is sad to the people who are watching somebody who are passing. There is something really important connected to it, especially when people gracefully can pass away.
Yeah,
I find it to be very Zen based.
And this being really September 7th, and we just lost Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace. But yeah.
Well, what about like the facts of fear being beneficial? Can you get any examples of anything that could work towards that?
No, absolutely. Fear is definitely beneficial. Fear keeps you safe. So, like even if you think about prehistoric times, like man back when he first started to like inhabit the earth, he would go. Maybe he sees, an area where like mountain lions or, dangerous beasts prowl. He gets that fear. That fear jumps up in him, and he knows this is not the place that I want to be, because you don't want to get your ass ate up by a lion. Okay,
or a saber tooth with like 16-inch teeth.
Absolutely. So definitely fears. And fear also keeps you sharp. Feel like me. Like I said, there's been times personally because like I don't have the I don't have the level of fear that initially comes in most people because I just kind of trained it out. That doesn't mean that just because you don't have fear does not mean that you don't put yourself in dangerous situations.
You do it every day. You don't even notice it.
So I don't want to die. There's people that need me. There's people that need me around, older, younger, whatever, that I need to be around just for any reason. And I don't want to die personally because, I want to live as much life. I pretty much want to get out all the potential that's in my existence and push it out into the world.
And share it.
Yes. Yeah, and share it.
And that's
with
important.
Everybody.
What you should do in life also. That way you'll be able to let people know how less dangerous fear really is.
Yes.
Because it's really about the more experience you get, the better you are. Share.
Yeah. And think about Braveheart, that Mel Gibson movie, which is a phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it,
there's a lot of things happening on that film.
But there was a quote that pretty much said, all men die, but not every man lives.
That's something?
That's a heavy quote.
Yeah, whoever wrote that film, and Mel Gibson probably was at his peak at that time.
Mel Gibson was definitely at his peak, or at least maybe starting the peak.
Well, what do you got? You got a bunch of different films. I can't even remember.
He had The Patriot. He had Get Carter. He had The Passion of the Christ. All the Lethal Weapon movies. He did some rom-coms. Like Mel Gibson was huge, but like just going back to Braveheart, and just thinking about that quote, every man's gonna die. We're all gonna, death is promised. We're all gonna die, but not every man lives. Like some people are just hiding away or just not going after what they want in life because they're afraid. Maybe they're afraid of having their ego deflated. Maybe they're afraid of being wrong. Maybe they're afraid of failure. All these fears they're allowing to not live. So they're kind of saying, "I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the next day. I'll do it a month from now." And then on a long enough timeline, they wake up. They're like, "Shit, I'm 99, God bless them if we all get to live that long. What did I do with my life?" You have to go out there. Like you said earlier in another episode, you have to get those scrapes. It's part of the journey. It's part of the experience. There's no way to go through life and have like a fully functional, fully exuberant, beautiful life without taking the good and the bad. Like you need the highs to understand the lows, and you need the lows to appreciate the highs. Like there's no cop out. You need both.
Yeah. You said it perfectly, man. I couldn't have even thought of it that way. Folks, you got to listen to this gentleman.
So, kind of wrapping, almost tying up this episode, I want to talk about the house of fear. Where does fear live? So, like if you know me, if you've watched us, listen to us, like I'm into the brain, I'm in the neuroanatomy. So the amygdala is pretty much the fear center of the brain. It houses, like your fear response. It activates the central nervous system to say, hey, something's going on in the environment. We need to be on high alert.
You can play with that a little bit. You can work it.
But there's also the gut microbiome, which people say is like, they're starting to say it's the second brain. So you ever notice, like, if you feel fearful, like you kind of feel it in your belly, like
Yes.
the term yellow belly.
Yeah, I experience this once in a while.
There's like 80% of the neurons that you have, the amount of neurons that you have in your brain, you have in your belly. So there's a lot of
neurons. Because there's essentially millions.
Yeah, there's
billions.
And the mind. So where does fear actually live? You know, like we create fear. Like fear doesn't, like we talked about this before.
It can start in your gut and actually affect your brain. It don't just start in your brain and go to your gut.
We are fear machines. We manufacture fear. Like fear doesn't exist. When you say there's a bump in my house, is that a man? We don't know what it is. We're manufacturing that, like we're producing that. So fear lives in us. So that means if we're manufacturing fear, if fear lives in us, then we can demanufacture. Like we can shut the assembly line down and say, you know what? I'm not gonna be fearful no more. I'm gonna go get what I want in life. I'm gonna get that girl. I'm gonna get that job. I'm gonna get that promotion. I'm gonna be the person that I want to be in life. There's nothing stopping you. You can go out and get whatever you want.
I totally echo the sentiments he's talking about, and everything that we're discussing today actually reflects to exactly what he's talking about right now.
That you can do now.
Yeah, it's here for you, and it's free. You just got to put some time into it. Put your Game Boy down a little bit, or whatever you're playing. No offense to you, but once in a while, just smell the roses, as they say. Get out there, talk to people, feel friendly, and you'll be a better person.
Fear is not God. You can do whatever you want. That's the way in. Believe us. Bro.
Are you for real?
Bro.
So we're going to go with Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, another one, obviously, who is well endowed, and she's a beautiful woman, and she has a bit of a boob window, they say. Power Girl. And I mean, and last but not least, who does not like a woman who has fishnets on? Black Canary, baby. So tell me, who would you marry first?
No,
You gonna think about this?
Who would I marry out of those three?
They're all gonna give you beautiful children.
Them Knicks babies. I'm going with I would marry Black Canary.
Okay, well you got to tell me why.
Now I'm marrying Black Canary because I've watched the CW show Arrow. Shout out to Arrow. Shout out to the whole cast. Shout out to the Arrowverse. They trying to call it the CW verse.
Oh, that's
fuck
stupid.
that. It's the Arrowverse. I would marry Black Canary because out of those three, number one, she's the most human. Yeah. She does have the canary cry, but she's the most human.
The canary cry.
But Power Girl and Wonder Woman, they're too powerful. Like so this is an ego thing. Okay, like I get like she's just too powerful. Like I want an independent lady like Beyonce, but those two are too powerful. So Canary, and I also feel that Canary, since she's a kind of street level, you know, she's dealing with more street level people, that I can deal with her. She's a little bit smarter. She can run the household. So I'm going with I'd marry Black Canary. So
all right.
So it's kill one, fuck one.
Household works.
Yeah. So it's kill one, fuck one.